Okay, luckily we are done. So we were discussing, if you remember, in the last class, we had a bit of discussion technical frailty because of which we could not put it on the YouTube. So I would very quickly rush through these verses, but perhaps the progress will be slower because we couldn't upload that in the YouTube. Now, up till the verse number 7, we have discussed that the consciousness through which we make sense of the reality all around us during the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. There is a very good logical explanation. There has to be a witness consciousness. In the waking state, we see the reality around us is different from the reality that we experience in the dream state. The basic difference being we see and we notice there is a distinction between what we see and us. There is a clear distinction between our consciousness, our mind, and what is getting reflected in our mind during the waking state. So there is at least presumably intersubjectively verifiable. That means one guy can say something, another guy can verify it. Verifiable external reality, which is stable, right? So you see there is a horse grazing in the field, and then your friend goes to see the same thing. He can see the same thing. It's not that you will see a horse and he's going to see a donkey. That's not going to happen. All of us together are doing satsang. It's not that you are listening to Panchadashi and somebody else who is present in the satsang is listening to some film songs. That doesn't happen. In the dream state, however, what we experience is created by the mind alone. There is no external thing. The mind creates it and then experiences it. And what is the distinction? If somebody says, well, there is no distinction if consciousness is the same in the waking state, also in the dream state, there is a witness consciousness. If it's one, why should you distinguish between the Jagrat Avastha and the Swapna Avastha? The Shastrakara explained, because the dream state reality is unstable. It's not verifiable by another person beyond a certain point. So on time and location wise, this is all mental and it's kind of flashes through, it appears and disappears, it's unstable. Therefore, that's not comparable with the Jagrat Avastha, but the consciousness through which we witness it, experience it, remains the same thing. And then in the deep sleep state, where there is neither Indriya Sanyoga, because all the sense organs are asleep, and even the mind is asleep. So you cannot even create an imagery or you cannot create a lila in your own mind and be an observer. Nevertheless, you remain as an observer. That is the argument, because in the deep sleep state, when you wake up, you say that I had a wonderful sleep and I did not experience anything. Now, when you say I didn't know anything, is it jnana bhava which is being discussed? Yes. Who is discussing it? So if you say I do not know, that statement is referring to two things. The vishaya of your statement is ajnana. But who is the karta who is saying this? There is a witness. That is for sure is a bhava padartha. It's not an abhavatmaka statement. The statement refers to abhava. The person who is making the statement exists. So there are two realities there. There is one witness and there is something which was witnessed. So in the deep sleep state, there must be an experiencer who witnessed the absence of experiences, and therefore there is a memory when we wake up, and that gives you evidence that the consciousness is there even when we are in coma or we are in deep sleep. It is there. Therefore, when it wakes up, it remembers, because you cannot remember anything without having experienced it earlier. So the experiencer could not spell it out because it was in deep sleep. However, there was experience. There has to be somebody who experienced it, and that is the witness. We have discussed all that till the verse number 7. So there are three things which we established there. That Atma or the consciousness is Satchidananda Swarupa. During the waking state, Satness is established, and that it is Jnana Swarupa, Chit and Ananda. Then in the deep sleep state, you were saying that you had a wonderful feeling of happiness. That all we have discussed it. Now the whole question is, you said Satchidananda Swarupa. Then we need to sort of discuss a little that the verse number 7 said it is Nitya and therefore it is Satya. Once it becomes Nitya, it doesn't have to give additional argument as to why that is Satya. Whatever is Nitya has to be Satya. Without being Satya, it cannot continue. So whether it is today or tomorrow, whether it is past or in the future, this consciousness is always there. It is non-local, it's all-pervasive, and it's eternal. He's kind of hinting at what is that Paramatma Swarupa that all of us are in our essential Swarupa. Now, having mentioned that, he has to drive home the point with more assertion, with more explanation. So there could be a point in question that could be in your mind. So in the verse number 8, he mentioned, Bhavatu evam samvidaha nitvatvam so prakasatvam. That it explains that we have also discussed as to why these witness cannot have somebody else to verify its existence. Somebody might ask this question. So there is this Atma, there is this consciousness, who watches it? This is no, that cannot be provided because the Atma or the consciousness cannot watch why it's not Anitya. If you presume Anitya, its beginning and end, there should be somebody to verify it. It cannot verify its own beginning and end. If you imagine that there is a witness other than this consciousness, then there is anavastha dosha, regression ad infinitum. It will continue. You will have one witness which observes my consciousness, who observes that consciousness, another one, who observes that consciousness, someone else, some other consciousness. It goes on. And that was resolved by different theological thinkers and philosophers. There are different solutions. One is that you consider this whole thing as a prabaha or cyclical repetition. The chicken egg problem. Which is first? Is the chicken or the egg? Then they say, no, it's a cyclical thing. It repeats itself. Prabaha. And there's another solution. No, you don't ask that. Ultimate question is, who is the creator of the creator? No, that's superfluous. You have to stop somewhere. So Vedanta stops at that consciousness, saying consciousness has to be Swayam Prakasha. It expresses itself. If we enter into a room to see anything, we need a torchlight. But to see the torchlight, it expresses itself. It doesn't need another torchlight. You don't need a torchlight to see the sun. Sun is evident. It expresses itself. It's self-luminous. That is how we have traveled so far, and we had traveled further in the last class, but because we could not live stream it, I'm just quickly rushing through a couple of slokas we did, and we'll proceed further. So he's saying, how do you say Tataha ki mityataha? Okay, so Nitya and Prakasha and Satya you establish. So what? He's saying, look, it's not only how do you explain Nitya Satya you establish. Okay, is there any proof that I should still be interested in the Atma? What do I get out of it? If there is no Ananda, if liberation that we are talking about it, the Moksha we are talking about it, gives you luminosity and light and truth, who is interested? Does it give you that bliss? Is the experience going to be much different from what you experience every day? Because every day you have some experience or whatever you call is happiness for you. Whether it's sports or games or music or relationship, your family, your job, money, fame, name, whatever. You're all the time looking for something which makes you feel good. Now, Vedanta says that if you get all these feel-good experiences are not permanent, not sustainable, and they are not providers of unmixed happiness, unadulterated happiness. There would be a few conditionalities or few limitations. These are powerful, source of adulteration. One is, for example, they would say, is dukkha misri tattva. There is no happiness where there is no prose only feel-good experience. There'll be some cons. You're going to pay some price for it. There's a flip side to it. And atripti karatva, there would be always an element of inadequacy. It's not all the time. It's good, but it's not always the best. There's a beautiful discussion in Chandogya Upanishad. Alpena nasukam, nobody is happy with less. Yadvai bhuma tatsukam, whatever is complete, perfect, that only is going to give you the perfect happiness. And what is that? Can money take you there? Because money, whatever number of zeros you put after one, it's still a number beyond which there will be another number. You may be rich, but you will be anxious. Who is going to catch up with me? Is it relationship? Is it name, fame? There will be always an incompleteness. What gives you that perfect completeness is that what Vedanta promises for one who is aspiring for it, saying that is not to be found in the material domain, that has to be searched for within, and the domain in which you realize the self, and that is the ultimate guarantor of that blissful experience, which you are not going to find anywhere else. Therefore, in the verse number 8, he says, Iyam atma paranandaha parapremaspadam yataha manabhuvam hi bhuyasa miti prematmanikshate. He's trying to give a good argument as to why this Atma is paranandaha. This is the ultimate source of ultimate bliss. And why so? He's saying it's because it is parama premaspada. If you imagine of love, this is the thing you love most. There's nothing other than this which you love. So he'll give a few examples and refute it. There's a beautiful sloka. Why so? He said, okay, anybody who is on mute, kindly I would request that mute yourself. Anyone, can you please, all of you, mute yourselves? Yeah, so kindly mute yourselves. Yeah, I muted. So what happens is that you have to accept and realize, I mean, that doesn't make you anyway selfish. You might think that by saying that Atma is Parama Premaspada, I might be going to be selfish, that I love the self if I'm saying it. No, it doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-enlightened. And what is he going to explain? It's saying, look, Yam Atma Paranandaha. And what is the Hetu? Para Premaspadaha Yataha. Because it is what we love most, and therefore this is Paramananda Shurupaha. One small example and argument which is being provided here is like this. Mana bhubam hi bhuyasam iti. Anybody says, let me not be there. Of course, we have a lot of arguments on altruism. Where there are 10 people on a boat and one fellow is extra, so it's sinking. It's quite possible that who is going to jump into the water to save 9 of them? There may be more than one person who is willing. There are a lot of, these are called situations of moral conflict. And these are taught in ethics, and a lot of discussions are there. What do you do in such kind of situation? These examples are there. However, the self, the person who is even renouncing his body, ending his life, is always largely doing it either of ignorance or misunderstanding, but largely because he sees his self as greater than his body or the physical life that he has. Because nobody ever accepts, let me not be there. He may not be there physically, but he would be there as a self. So he's saying, Manav Bhubam hi bhuyasham. Let me be there. Of course I should be there. Iti prema atmani ichyate. That is how everybody experiences, and we notice that there's a lot of love which is invested in self. And very quickly, I'll run through this commentary, which is slightly longish. I'll quickly run through it. Atra ayam prayogaha. He's giving some, argumentative syllogism from the Nyaya Sastra. Yam Samvid Atma Bhavitum Arhati. This consciousness deserves to be Atma. Nityatva Sati So Prakashatvad. It is Nitya and So Prakasha. It's self-luminous and it's eternal. Yanna Evam Tad Na Tad Evam. Yanna Evam Tanna Evam. The one which is not like this. So it's giving a Vyatireka Drishtanta here. It's a Vyatireka Anumana. So you have Kevala Anvai, you have Anvai Vyatireki and Vyatireki. Here is Vyatireki. Yanna evam na tadevam yatha ghataha. Ghata is not nitya and show prakasha. This is the Vyatireka Drishtanta. It's a contrarian example. And we are talking about Atma, which is both Nitya and Satya. Iti Atmanaha Nitya Sambit Rupatva Prasadhanena. Because he established that the Atma is Nitya and it is Chaitanya Rupa. Satyatvam api sadhitam bhavati. No further arguments are required or evidence required to explain that it is Satya. Nityatva atirikta satyatva abhavat. There is nothing which is Satya, but it's not Nitya. Anitya can never be Satya. Anything which you call Satya has to be Nitya. If I prove Nitya, Nityatva of anything, I don't have to prove it exists. If I am saying it's eternal, what additional argument I need to prove that it exists? Nityatvam satyatvam tad tasya asti iti tan nityam. Whatever is nitya has to have satyatva in it. Iti Vachaspati Mishrehi Uktatvad. Vachaspati Mishraji, the greatest encyclopedic intellectual of India, has already proved it. He's somebody who wrote commentaries on the, Sankhya Tattva Kaumadi. He wrote Vachaspati Bhashya on the, on the Yoga Sutras. He wrote his own commentary on this. He has written commentaries on Brahma Sutras. He virtually wrote commentaries on all schools of thought in India. Therefore, he is considered to be one of the greatest intellectuals we have had. Uktatvad. And then we are going further up. Atmanaha Ananda Rupatvam Sadhayati. Okay, Satyatanuttata done. Now explain to me why it is Ananda. Parananda iti. He starts explaining why Satchidananda Swarupa. That is Atma. So the last bit of it, that Ananda Rupatva, is being established. Atma iti anusajyate parananda atma. So that atma will add there. Parasya anandasya iti parananda. What do you mean by parananda? Which is both para, which ultimate, there's nothing beyond it, and it's ananda swarupa. Therefore we call it parananda. Niratisaya sukha swarupa iti arthaha. What is it? It is niratisaya. Now all the sukhas that we talked about in the material domain or in the psychological domain, in the material world, these have limitations. They have a beginning, they have an end, they have certain intensity. It's not niratisaya. And whatever ananda, and he will explain, it is essential for the self, and therefore self is the domain where you have niratisaya ananda. Tatra hetumaha. What is your logic? He's saying parananda, parama premaspadatvad, because this is what deserves ultimate love that all of us have for the self. Yataha, yasmat karanat, because of the region. He's giving a logical explanation. Parasya nirupadhikatvena niratisayasya premnaha snehasya aspadam vishayah tasmat. Because you see, you can have sopadhika, but that atma which is nirupadhika, you may have a house, you may have a car, you may have a relationship. These are specific things, but they become a means for something higher. You have a house for yourself, you have a relationship for yourself. All these things are kind of avantar experience, one intermediate level of experience of happiness, which are limited ultimately. Yaha paramananda rupa na bhavati na aso paramaspadam api. Whatever is not paramananda swarupa, that cannot deserve ultimate love on our part. Yatha ghataha. You look at the ghata. Okay, it's very attractive. You have an earthen pot. And then what? You had gone to a handicraft exhibition where you purchase a pot, where there was a lot of beautiful, you know, pottery. Now they do artistic pottery, so there were a lot of painting on it, which is very popular in China and in other parts in India, but not so much as in China. So they do very intricate paintings. Sometimes they do it on the inside of it in a transparent glass pot. It's amazing. And if you go to Guangzhou and all, they would be doing the painting right in front of your eyes. It's amazing. They do these miniature paintings. The Japanese have their own style of doing it, and in India also we do it. These, especially the kind of pots which you put sweets and other things and give it to your daughter as gift during marriage. We try to decorate it by painting. You love that pot. Is it Paramananda, Parama Premaspada? Is it dear to you than your own daughter whom you're marrying off? No. It's fine, you like it. It's not Parama Premaspada. That's what Atma is he's trying to say. Tathacha ayam paramaspadam aspadam na bhavati iti na. But the Atma is not parama premaspada. You never say that. Why? Tasmad paramananda rupa na bhavati iti na. Because paramananda premaspada, parama premaspada, it's not, you can't prove. Always and ultimately you love the self. Therefore, you cannot say that Atma is not Paramananda Rupa. No, now I tell you, there is one interesting thing. No, Atmani dhik mamiti. Sometimes you, oh my God, what a devil I was. Hell on me. You get angry. Mujhe dhik, you say. The mother gets angry with the daughter or the son because they have done something stupid. And she says, shame on me, I gave birth to you, right? So you say, shame on me, you're hating yourself. And you're saying the self is Parama Premaspada. Why should you ever say shame on me? Therefore, he has to explain it. Dvesasya upalabhyamanatvat. There is hatred for yourself. Self-hatred is they call it. And that is evident in some experiences. How can you say the Atma is what? Is the body of ultimate love? How do you say that? He's explaining. Brahma Parama Premaspadatvam eva asiddham. That itself is refuted. Kutaha Parama Premaspadatvam iti asankya. So where is Parama Premaspadatva in Atma? Tasya dukkha sambandha nimittakattvena anyatha siddhatva. Please mute yourselves. I think some of you, please, always try to mute yourselves, because otherwise others will get disturbed. So now I'm coming back. So what happens is, there is some dukkha nimitta. The daughter has done something which is stupid. The son did something the mother is unable to bear. Maybe the son said something to some girl and she has complained. Your son said something very stupid to me, and the girl's parents call you up. You are facing great embarrassment, especially the mother. So she says, shame on me. I gave birth to you. But here there is a dukkha nimitta. It's not that she dislikes or hates herself. It's a certain variable which is creating a certain exigency where she makes that statement. That doesn't mean she doesn't love herself. That is what is being driven home. He's saying dukkha sambandha nimittakattvena anyatha siddhatvad premnascha atmani anubhava siddhatvad ma evamiti pariharati. It's always established through experience that everybody values the self most, and there could be a few factors. There is called anyatha siddhatvad, whether Atma is there or not. When you call something as cause, abhyavahita purvavartitvam, there is an effect. It has to be immediately before this, but it should not be anyatha siddha, means its existence doesn't make a difference. Then it doesn't become a causal factor. Like, for example, the daughter is painting, right? And the mom says, so what are you doing for your festival tomorrow? She's saying, I'm painting this. For Teachers' Day, I'm going to gift it to my teachers. The brother is sitting next to her, little baby brother, and watching the whole thing. Is it the cause of this nice painting? The brother says, yeah, because of me who did it, because I was watching it. No, the sister laughs. Even if you're not there, I would have done it. He's a anyatha siddha. So therefore, there is a dukkha nimitta. Therefore, you experience this particular statement, shame on me. That absolutely doesn't explain that Atma is not Parama Premaspada. He is Yasmat Karanat Atmani Vishaye Manabhuvam Ahamabhuvam iti na. Let me not be there. Nobody established owns one asatwa. Let me die. Let me. No. Everybody wants this. An instinct for self-preservation. Some people try to explain it as a genetic thing or it's part of the DNA. It's common to all animals and birds and even plants. Mama Sattvam Kadapi Mavhud. That I'll not be there. No. Let that not happen. Into Vuyasam eva. Let me be there. Sada Atma. Then he's saying Sattvam eva Mama Vuyad ityevam vidham prema ichyate. Sarvai anuviyate. Everybody experiences. Ato na asiddhi ityartha. Therefore, he's saying you can never say that this is not there. Done. So, Atma is Paramananda Rupaha, and the cause for this, the argument for this, is because it is Parama Premaspada, therefore it is Parananda Rupaha. Done. Now he's saying, Nanu Mavut Surupa Siddhi. Surupa Siddhi is a fault, it's a dosha, hetva bhasa in Nyaya Sastra. Swarupa Siddhi is pakshe hetva bhavaha. So you are trying to conclude that Banniman ayam parvataha dhuma, because there is smoke, this mountain has fire. You are not being able to see the source of fire, you see smoke. Coming out of a particular place, and then you say there's some kind of a wildfire. Now, Paksha is the Parvata. Now, Paksha Hetu Abhavaha, if you don't see smoke there, but you see smoke in your own kitchen, you cannot conclude, because I see smoke in my kitchen, therefore this mountain has fire. No, doesn't accrue. There's no causal relationship. The Hetu is the Linga, Gyapaka Linga, because you are seeing Dhuma, that is the Hetu. Because of that, you are concluding it has fire. Paksha and Hetu should be together. If they are not together, that is called Swarupa Siddhi. He's saying, okay, that Hetva is not there. However, Parananda Rupa you are saying, there is a para, there is an adjective you are giving. How can you prove that it is Parananda Rupa? So then there will be Visheshana Siddhi. If you try to do, there is fire because Neela Dhumatvat, or Rakta Dhumatvat, it is red smoke, therefore there is fire. There is Visheshana Siddhi. Why? Because this is a superfluous thing you are trying to create. It has no causal relationship with fire that you are trying to do inference of. You are doing Anumana. So that is a Visheshana Siddhi. First, you try to prove some kind of a correlationship between this adjective and the noun in the Hetu. Dhuma and Raktatva. Now, if you are saying Dhuma, generally it will be Neela Rupa, dark color. And if you say some other color, people might say, but if you say Subhra Dhumad, somebody will laugh. What do you mean by white smoke? Yeah, that artificially can be created. But generally, it has to have some logical relationship. He's saying Atma is Parananda Rupa. This Para Visheshana perhaps is not applicable here. Give me some logic to accept that this is what ultimately is the most valuable, lovable. Therefore, that has to be refuted or explained away. We have verse number 9. Tata Prematma Tata Anyatra Naivam Anyarthamatmani Ataha Tatparatvam Tena Paramananda Tatmanaha Tat Prema Atmatham Anyatra Na Evam. Look at this sloka, what he's trying to say. What he's trying to say is that whenever, like for example, you like this pen. You like this pen because it writes well. It writes well means what you write is appreciated. And what you write is appreciated, so it gives you happiness. In itself, it's not what you love. You love it because it gives you that happiness, gives yourself that happiness. Whereas when you love yourself, that doesn't lead to you liking this pen as a result. You don't need to see your love or your appreciation for yourself, not your ego self, but for yourself, as a means to having liking for anything else. It is not subservient to any other purpose. That's being driven home here. It's a very powerful shloka. Tat premartha atmartham anyatra na evam anyartham atmani. Whenever you love anything else, that is because you want to love yourself. Right? And ataha tat paramam, and therefore that love is ultimate. Tena paramanandata atmanaha, and by that logic, because your love for the self is not a means to your love for anything else, whereas your love for everything else is subservient to your love for yourself. Now, before I move forward, I had mentioned it last time and I want to sort of repeat it again. There is this beautiful sloka, mantra in the Vidyaranya Upanishad. I had mentioned it last time. There was a dialogue between Jakyavalkya and Maitreyi. And Maitreyi gets hold of Jakyavalkya, who gets up in the morning, takes his morning tea, and he says, I'm going out. And she asks him, where are you going, sir? He says, I'm going in search of immortality. And I'm leaving behind these 1,000 cows, which were gifted to me by Janaka. And then this huge orchard, this whole estate of this ashram. And you have beautiful, cows. We're going to take care of you by providing you milk. And then you have a lot of plants, so you get fruits from the orchard. And you have these young brahmacharis who are going to treat you as a mother. You can take care of them, and they're going to give you assistance. Maitreyi is a sharp student. Unlike Katyayani, who is the other wife of him, she was like an intellectual partner. He had two wives. And she asks him, am I going to get immortality with what you are leaving behind for us? He says, no. Then what is that? You yourself are abandoning all this to look for that. And you are giving this to us, which means you are denying us a chance to get into that business of finding immortality. So at least give me a hint as to what it is. And he's super happy about it. He's saying, for the first time now, I have found a student and a friend. Our relationship is completely transformed because you are now seeking satsang with me. And they have a beautiful conversation where Maitreyi is asking questions and Jakyavalkya is answering. In order to explain that, he's mentioning, let's pay attention to what he's saying. This is in the 4th chapter, Panchama Brahmana, because first 2 chapters are not taught. Some people write it in the 2nd chapter. Some people write it in the 4th chapter, but that's irrelevant. Look at the mantra. Saho vacha Jakyavalkya nava are patyuh kamaya patihi priyo bhavati atmanastu kamaya patihi priyo bhavati. A wife loves a husband not because she loves the husband, because she loves herself. She loves the husband because the husband is a provider, protector, supporter, friend. Therefore, she loves him. If the husband becomes disloyal, develops liking for some other woman, or she discovers that he has been not trustworthy, is she going to love him anymore? No, she's not going to love him. This is a conditional love. If her love for her husband is contradicting her love for herself, If she feels devalued as a result of her love for her husband, she's going to abandon him. She cannot accept him. Same is true for everything else that you love, which is not you. Not you here is not the ego self, is that Atma. And he's saying, Nava are jaya ye kamaya jaya priya bhavati atmanastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Same is true for the husband. He loves her husband. He loves his wife because, she kind of sees a friend, and when she needs a bit of emotional support, she behaves like a mother. She gives him food, bears him children, is always with him when he's in mental stress. If he discovers his wife loves somebody else, or she doesn't love him, is he going to love her? No. That's going to come to a full stop. Nava are putranam kamaya putraha priya bhavanti atmanastu kamaya putraha priya bhavanti. Nava are vittasya kamaya vittam priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya vittam priyam bhavati. Nava are brahmanaha kamaya brahmam priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya brahma priyam bhavati. He's going on like this. You don't love children because you love children, but because you love yourself. They're going to be bright students. They're going to bring you name and fame. They're going to support you in old age. You may not mention all this. Of course, we cannot stretch it too much, because in the birds, the children don't take care of their parents in old age. It's more biological. We know it. If you watch the pigeons, or you look at the hen protecting his chicks, there is that motherhood instinct. That's why we worship motherhood as an expression of the presence of the Supreme Divine Mother. We do see that. It's very instinctive. It's not necessarily. But if you look at the whole thing, if the cat is too hungry, it doesn't find any food, she has 7, 8 kittens, it's quite possible that she might kill one to feed herself so that she can protect others. There are strange things that you see in the animal world. You also see a bit of violence that sometimes mothers show towards their kids or kittens or whatever. So, ultimately the self is the destination as means towards which we love other things, whether it's house or car or son or wife or husband. So, in the end, I'll not go further into the details there. In the last couple of sentences, he says this: Nava are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. You love everything not because they are lovable in themselves. It's because the self is lovable, and your love for them, your liking for them, is a means towards your being able to love yourself, because that is the most lovable. Then ultimately he concludes, what is the goal? Amritattva. What are the means? Atmajnana. And then only you're going to get that Amritattva, that blissfulness. And he's saying, Atma va are drashtabhyaha srotabhyaha mantabhyaha nididhyasitabhyaha. Therefore, one must meditate on that Atma, should see it. No, it's not an object to be seen. Here, drashtavya means you need to do sakshatkara. Shrotabhya, you need to hear it. Mantabhya, you need to meditate on it. Nididhasitabhya, so you need to deeply contemplate on it. Maitre atmanava are darsanena shravanena matya vijnanena idam sarvam viditam. So when you know this Atma, that becomes the ground for you listening to it, meditating on it, realizing it. You realize everything. That's a very powerful explanation, which sort of addresses the concern we have right now. Why is Atma, is Parama Premaspada? Because there is no Anyarthatva, there is nothing, another Artha because of which you love the self. Anyatra swa atirikte putradau yat prema tadadmyartham. whatever love you have for, my son is my life, all that. Tesam atma sesatva nimittakam eva. Ultimately, it's your love for yourself as a result of which you're saying, my wife is my life. Like you have in Hindi, what is that word? Janeman or something, or Janu or something. Or you have, the mother tells to the child, you are my Jan, you are my life. Now swabhavikam, it's not swarupata, you are accepting it. Evam atmani vidyamanam prema anyartham na. Similarly, the love you have for that self is not for something else. Atmanaha anya seshatva nimittakam na bhavati. Your love for yourself is not a means for you to love anything else. Kintu atma nimittakam eva. You love yourself because you love yourself. It's an end in itself. Ataha nirupadhikatva tat paramam niratisayam. It's not sopadhika. You are loving it because it will lead you to realize yourself, love yourself. No. It is nirupadhika and it is what? Niratisaya. There is nothing beyond this. Phalitamaha tena iti. Because of this tena is the logic. Now the logic is over. What is the outcome? Paramanandata atmanaha siddha. That it is ultimately Paramananda Swarupa. That is established through this. Tena niratisaya premaspadattvena atmanaha paramanandata. Paramananda Swarupata. Of what? Of the Atma is established. Niratisaya sukha swarupatvam siddham. It's niratisaya sukha swarupa. Done. Now we are going to say. Then there is the next step. In the 10th verse, there is something more interesting. Jnanasya parabrahma avinnatva nirupanam. Now, if there will be some kind of a gap between you and that Atma Tattva, there will be advaita hani. You are there, you're looking for a cow or a house or a son or a daughter or a wife or a husband, whatever. You and that, there is dvaita, you're going to reach there. Self is within you, so you reach for it. Then in the Dvaitis, you have the Vaishnavas and the Saivas and everyone. There's Bhakta and a Bhagavan. But in the Advaita Vedanta, the Bhakta Bhagavan is a game that you play. It's a necessary game that you need to play to graduate to that ultimate self-realization, where there's nothing except you, but you have to graduate to that level. And that is being driven home here. That the Param Brahman in the Atman that we are talking about, in the Vaishnava schools of philosophy, for example, they will refer to the individual as a Karna Brahma. They don't accept the sansara as mithya. God creates it, and why should it be a lie? This is real for the Vaishnavas. And this is what is called Brahma Parinama Vada. But the Advaiti has a little difficulty. He's saying if you assume Brahma Parinama Vada, you will have a difficulty in explaining how he still remains Purnamadaha Purnamidam, because he undergoes change himself. But there are certain Upanishadic statements which in fact hint at the fact that the Brahman, the Absolute, has become many and then it has assumed names and forms. Advaita Vedanta says it is a Vivarta, it is a projection. The Absolute is Nirvishesha Brahman. The Vishishta Rupa that you see is not a change in that Absolute Self. This is a projection of it in our ignorance, in our minds. Ultimately, nothing is happening. This is severely criticized by Sri Aurobindo. This is criticized by even Ramanujacharya. It is criticized by Madhvacharya. It is criticized by Suddhadvaita Vadi, Baldhavacharya. In fact, next Ekadasi is one memorable day. I think he completes some 500 years or something. There will be some celebrations because in the Pushti Marga tradition. So there is a criticism. But the Sankaracharya, which is very close also to the Mula Madhyamika Karika, the Buddhists, the same thing. That ultimate thing is non-dual. You cannot have dualism. Therefore, he's trying to say that Atma and Parabrahma is Avinna, Tattvamasi. These are Aham Brahmasmi. These are, a lot of people misrepresent that Sankaracharya said this, especially the Vaishnavas while giving commentaries and pravachana. These are Mahavakyas of the Upanishads. Obviously, Sankaracharya was not making these statements to refute or to show anybody as less intelligent. These are Upanishadic statements, and he has driven home the point of non-duality and unity, that all of us are one, there is no difference. So we'll go there, and this is being established in the verse number 10. How is it being established? Ittam Satchit Parananda Atma Yuktya Tatha Vidham Param Brahma Tayo Shakyam Shrutyanteshu Padishyate. Now, in a beautiful way, he has given this, but if you look at Tatha, the printing error is there, that Vidham is not here, okay? But I pronounce this Tatha Vidham because this could be one reading. I tell you one catch here. We didn't have any printing machines centuries ago, but these texts existed. So how they was to propagate this thing? You know, the king will call a few guys who are good handwriting, and they would be writing on Bhurja Patra or the palm leaves. They'll be using these iron pens and in the North India ink pens, and they would be writing it. And Orissa or all of South India is palm leaf tradition. They'll be holding that iron pen, basically a pointed nib was there, and they would be writing like this. And they will make 100 copies. So they will hire a lot of these writers, generally Brahmins, who would be writing it, and they will make 200 copies, and they will have a seminar. Will call different other intellectuals from different other states, feed them, have a discussion in the book so that some questions are raised. Once it's finalized, he will order 200 copies and gift all of them one. They will take it, and then they like it. Those intellectuals or pandits who love that book, they will talk to their king, and they will make another 100 copies. That is how it was that is how the distribution used to happen. The diffusion of the ideas, dissemination of ideas used to happen. It's quite possible that in one particular collection of these books, with one king, where did we get these documents? In different, museums or libraries and individual libraries. And one palm leaf says Tatha, only stops there. In another, you have Tatha Vidham. So, it sort of rhymes well. Tatha Vidham, because if you look at below here, in the Pratika, Tatha Vidham is written, which means that printing error was perhaps there. But it's a little difficult as to why is it so. It's quite possible that this particular text that we're looking at had only Tatha in the main thing, but it is called Partha Veda. Different impressions may have some differences, okay, in the way certain sentences are written. Itham Satchit Parananda, Itham Atma, Satchit Parananda, Yuktya Tatha Vidham. It's been already established with Yuktis. Now somebody might have this question. So logically we have been explaining it. So what is the point of these Upanishads which talks about Atma is Satchidananda Swarupa? Are they completely fruitless, nirarthaka writing? What is the point of all these Upanishads then? You see, Parabrahma Tayo Shakyam, Atma and Parabrahma and Tayoho Aikyam. One is of both the individual consciousness and the absolute universal consciousness. They are essentially one. Shrutyanteshu, Shruti Anteshu. Shruti is Vedas, Anta is Vedanta. The last section, the first sections are all Karma Kanda sections. There are few Upasana Kandas, and the end, you have the Upanishads after Aranyakas. You have the Sahitas, then you have Brahmanas, where there is a discussion on different mantras, how to recite them in the context of what Karma Kandas, what rituals. Then there is a meditation on these rituals, largely parts of Brahmanas and also in the Aranyakas. And then the engagement is becoming more and more contemplative. And ultimately in the Upanishads, there is only meditation, the ultimate goal, not so much on the rituals. He's saying Shrutyanteshu Upadishyate. The Upanishads also drive home the same point. Let's run through it quickly. We have a few minutes left. Sabdas Parshadayaha Ityadina Gyanasya Nityatvam Prasadhya. In the third verse of Panchadashi, Tasya Eva Iyam Atma Iti Atmatva Prasadhanena Atmanah Satchidrupatvam Sadhitam. In the third verse and the following discussion, Satchidrupa is established. In fact, we have already discussed this. Parananda Ityadina, in the 8th, 9th verses, Ityadina cha Paramananda Rupatvam Samarthitam. Logically, we also established that Atma is Paramananda Rupa. Ataha, therefore, Atma Mahavakye Tvam Padartha Sachidananda Rupa Siddha. That Tvam Padartha, when you say Tattvamasi, that is no different from Tat. Tvam is Tat, that both pointing at one consciousness. With Upadhi, this is a individual consciousness with one adjective. Like Ghatakasha, Patakasha, ultimately everything is one consciousness, like one sky. Then you have sky inside your house and sky inside my house. It's like that. Tvam padartha sachidananda rupa siddha nanu ukta lakshanasya atmanaha yuktya eva avagatau. Only through logic, if you can establish that Atma is that Paramananda Swarupa only, then Upanishadam nirvishayatvena apramanya prashangaha. What is the point of reading these Upanishads? They are apramanya. They are not saying anything new. If you don't say avadhita anadigatatvam, it has to be avadhita, then it should be anadigata. You should not have known it earlier, and it should not be refutable through any other pramana. Then only whatever Veda says or whatever would be considered as pramana. Otherwise, no. That is the lakshana of pramana. Otherwise, you are not going to accept it. It will be an anuvada, repetition of what you already know. So he's saying it's nirarthaka. No, he's saying no. He's saying no, it's not so. Ityasankya tatha vidham iti. Tatha tadrig vidha prakaro yasya tat tatha vidam sachidananda rupam param brahma tat padartha. That param brahma is tat padartha. We are tvam padartha. The individual, when he is in deep meditation, the pure consciousness which is there without any thought, names and forms, is no different in any manner from that Param Brahma that we are talking about as Parameshwara. You have that Maya Upadhi with which we worship God. Remove the Upadhi, is Nirvishesha Brahma. With the Raga Dvesadi, that Samahita, and you have Rajas and Tamas, that is Suddha Sattva Samparna Ishwar, we are Malina Sattva Samparna. That is, the Atma has a lot of pratibandhakas or obstructions. If you remove this upadhis, that pure consciousness in the highest state of your meditative repose is no different from the Param Brahma. He's saying Strutyanteshu Vedanteshu Upadishyate Pratipadyate. That is, he's saying Tayoho Tattvat Padarthayor Aikyam Akhanda Ekara Sattvam. That is Akhanda Ekarasha. One Swarupa Eva. Like Ghatakasha, Patakasha is no different from the Mahakasha. Similarly, the Pratyaga Chaitanya, the Pratyak Chaitanya or the Pratyak Atma, which is there in all of us, is no different from that Paramatma. Atah na Vedantanam nirvishayatam. It's not that the Vedantas have no particular advice to offer. So we will sort of put an end to our discussion today. We have reached 8:30. We'll take it forward tomorrow. There's a bit of a repetition because we could not do live streaming last time. So I'll stop here and we'll do the Shanti Mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya